Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books right here in the live studios in Hive, the Haven. We have Rasika Shiromani has joined us from Houston and joined the team, the BBT audiobook, Team BBT audiobook. He's working away, trying to get the CC audiobook edited, first edit, by the end of the year. Hopefully we can get it out, release it by Gaur Purnima, by the blessings of the Vaishnavas. The world is about to change one way or another, as it always is. And here we are, solidly situated in devotional service, in which things don't change. It's unchanging. It's always blissful, and it's always productive, and it's always progressive. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada, wrote this, spoke this poetic glorification of the Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. We read it every day. I never get tired of it because it's so nectarian. He said, in due course, Mahapralaya, devastating floods, will inundate the entire universe. If you attempt to survive by swimming in that deluge, then do not neglect to take hold of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. Or, if you cannot hold all three, then release Bhagavad Gita. If necessary, you may also relinquish Srimad Bhagavatam, but under no circumstances release your hold on Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. For if this one book remains, then the flood can do no actual damage, because after it is subsided, the message of Shastra can be revived from Sri Caitanya-caritämrta alone, it being the essence of all Shastra. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So, we reached the 17th chapter of the Madhya-lila. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu travels to Vrndävana. And now he's reached Mathura after passing through Kashi and making up his mind to deliver Prakashananda Saraswati after seeing the anxiety that his devotees have there, especially the one Brahmana who went to invite or one Brahmana who went to glorify him in front of Prakashananda Saraswati and got an earful of offenses, blasphemy. So he smiled, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he said, okay, and then left for Vrndävana. That means he goes back after he visits Vrndävana and delivers the Mayavadi sannyasis. But now he's reached Mathura, and he met a Sarodiya Brahmana who became ecstatic seeing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and began to dance and chant with the Lord. And afterwards the Lord asked him, where did you get this ecstatic love? This is very rare. And he said, Madhavendra Puri came to my home when he was on tour. And he took prasadam. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became very happy and paid his obeisances to this Sanudiya Brahmana. Sanudiya Brahmanas are the leaders of a couple of groups of Brahmanas that are considered lower class. And therefore, usually sannyasis don't go and take prasad in the homes of Sanudiya Brahmanas. But he had love of God, and Lord Chaitanya was not into the rules and regulations like that. He didn't follow things mechanically. He went where he saw innocence. And now we're going to pick up Lord Chaitanya's discussing this point with the Sanudiya Brahmana. We're beginning with text 185. A devotee's behavior establishes the true purpose of religious principles. The behavior of Madhavendra Puri Goswami is the essence of such religious principles. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives the following commentary on this passage. A sadhu, or honest man, is called a Mahajan, or a Mahatma. The Mahatma is described thus by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita 9:13. Mahatmanas tumam partha daivim prakritim ashritaha bhajantyananya manaso gyatpa bhutadam avyayam. O son of Pritam, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. In the material world, the word Mahatma is understood in different ways by different religionists. Mundaners also come up with their different angles of vision. For the conditioned soul, busy in sense gratification, a Mahajan is recognized according to the proportion of sense gratification he offers. For instance, a businessman may consider a certain banker to be a Mahajan, and karmis desiring material enjoyment may consider philosophers like Jaimini to be Mahajans. There are many yogis who want to control the senses, and for them Patanjali Rishi is a Mahajan. For the Jnanis, the atheist Kapila, Vishishta, Durvasa, Dattatreya, and other impersonalist philosophers are Mahajans. For the demons, Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, Ravana, Ravana's son, Meghanada, Jarasandha, and others are accepted as Mahajans. For materialistic anthropologists speculating on the evolution of the body, a person like Darwin is a Mahajan. The scientists who are bewildered by Krishna's external energy have no relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, yet they are accepted by some as Mahajans. Similarly, philosophers, historians, literary men, public speakers, and social and political leaders are sometimes accepted as Mahajans. Such Mahajans are respected by certain men who have been described in Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3.19. Shvavid varahostra kadai sangstutak purushak pashuhu nayat karna patopito jatu namagadad graja. Men who were like dogs, hogs, camels, and asses praise those men who never listened to the transcendental pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna, the deliverer from all evils. Thus, on the material platform, animalistic leaders are worshipped by animals. I'll repeat that again. Thus, on the material platform, animalistic leaders are worshipped by animals. Sometimes physicians, psychiatrists, and social workers try to mitigate bodily pain, distress, and fear, but they have no knowledge of spiritual identity and are bereft of a relationship with God. Yet they are considered Mahajans by the illusioned. Self-deceived persons sometimes accept leaders or spiritual masters from a priestly order that has been officially appointed by the codes of material life. In this way they are deceived by official priests. Sometimes people accept as Mahajans those who have been designated by Sri Vrndävana Thakur as Danga Vipras, impostor Brahmanas. Such impostors imitate the characteristics of Srila Haridas Thakur, and they envy Haridas Thakur, who was certainly a Mahajan. They make great artificial endeavors, advertising themselves as great devotees of the Lord, or as mystic hypnotists, knowledgeable in witchcraft, hypnotism, and miracles. Sometimes people accept as Mahajans demons like Putana, Trinavarta, Vatsa, Baka, Agasura, Denuka, Kalya, and Pralamba. Some people accept imitators and adversaries of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, such as Pondraka, Shrigala Vasudev, the spiritual master of the demons, Shukracharya, or atheists like Charvaka, King Venu, Sugata, and Arhat. People who accept such imitators as Mahajans have no faith in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rather, they accept godless cheaters who present themselves as incarnations of God and cheat foolish people within the material world by word jugglery. Thus, many rascals are accepted as Mahajans. It is those who are devoid of devotional service who sometimes mistakenly accept persons with mundane motives as Mahajans. The only motive must be Krishna Bhakti, devotional service to the Lord. Sometimes fruitive workers, dry philosophers, non-devotees, mystic yogis, and persons attached to material opulence, women, and money are considered Mahajans. But Srimad Bhagavatam 6.3.25 gives the following statement about such unauthorized Mahajans. Prayena vedata didam tad na mahajano yam devya vimohita matir batamaya yalam trayam jadi kritamatir madupushpitayam vaikani ke mahati karmani yujyamanaha. In this material world, karmis, fruitive actors, are accepted as Mahajans by foolish people who do not know the value of devotional service. The mundane intelligence and mental speculative methods of such foolish people are under the control of the three modes of material nature. Consequently, they cannot understand unalloyed devotional service. They are attracted by material activities, and they become worshippers of material nature. Thus they are known as fruitive actors. They even become entangled in material activities, disguised as spiritual activities. In the Bhagavad Gita, such people are described as Veda Vada Rataha, supposed followers of the Vedas. They do not understand the real purport of the Vedas, yet they think of themselves as Vedic authorities. People versed in Vedic knowledge must know Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vidaish Jasarvar Aham Eva Vedya. Bhagavad Gita 15:15. In this material world, a person may be famous as a karmavira, a successful fruitive worker, or he may be very successful in performing religious duties, or he may be known as a hero in mental speculation, jnana vira, or he may be a very famous renunciant. In any case, Srimad Bhagavatam 3:23-56 gives the following opinion in this matter. Neha yat karma dharmaya naviragaya kalpate natirtha padasevayai jivan api mrito hisaha. Anyone whose work is not meant for elevating him to religious life, anyone whose religious ritualistic performances do not raise him to renunciation, and anyone situated in renunciation that does not lead him to devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead must be considered dead, although he is breathing. The conclusion is that all pious activity, fruitive activity, religious principles, and renunciation must ultimately lead to devotional service. There are different types of processes for rendering service. One may serve his country, people, and society, the Varnashram Dharma system, the sick, the poor, the rich, women, demigods, and so on. All this service comes under the heading of sense gratification, or enjoyment in the material world. It is most unfortunate that people are more or less attracted by such material activity, and that the leaders of these activities are accepted as Mahajans, great ideal leaders. Actually, they are only misleaders, but an ordinary man cannot understand how he is being misled. Narottam Das Thakur says, Sadhu Shastra Guru Bhakya Chitete Kariya Aikya. One should accept as one's guide the words of the sadhus, the Shastra, and the Guru. A sadhu is a great personality like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Shastras are the injunctions of revealed scriptures, and the Guru, or spiritual master, is one who confirms the scriptural injunctions. Accepting the guidance of these three is the actual way of following the great personalities, Mahajans, for real advancement in life. Mahajano yenagata sapantaha. A man covered by illusion cannot understand the proper way. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Dharma stapana hetu sadhuda vyavahar. The behavior of a devotee is the criterion for all other behavior. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself followed the devotional principles and taught others to follow them. Puri Goshaira ye acharana se dharma sar. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally followed the behavior of Madhavendra Puri and advised others to follow his principles. Unfortunately, people have been attracted to the material body since time immemorial. Yasyat mabudhi kunape tridatuke swadi kalatradishu boma ijadihi yat tirtha buddhi salile nakarichij janeshu abhigyeshu saeva gokaraha. A human being who identifies this body made of three elements with his self, who considers the byproducts of the body to be his kinsmen, who considers his land of birth worshipable, and who goes to a place of pilgrimage simply to take a bath, rather than meet men of transcendental knowledge there, is to be considered like an ass or a cow. Bhagavatam 10:84-13. Those who accept the logic of Gadalika Pravaha and follow in the footsteps of pseudo Mahajans are carried away by the waves of Maya. Bhaktivinoda Thakur therefore warns, Miche Mayara Vashe Yachcha Beshe, Kachcha Habu Dabu Bai, Jeev Krishna Das, E Vishwas, Karle Tara Nukanai. Don't be carried away by the waves of Maya. Just surrender to the lotus feet of Krishna, and all miseries will end. Those who follow social customs and behavior forget to follow the path chalked out by the Mahajans. Thus they are offenders at the feet of the Mahajans. Sometimes they consider such Mahajans very conservative, or they create their own Mahajans. In this way they ignore the principles of the Parampara system. This is a great misfortune for everyone. If one does not follow in the footsteps of the real Mahajans, one's plans for happiness will be frustrated. This is elaborately explained later in the Madhya-lila, chapter 25, verses 55, 56, and 58. It is there stated, Parama karana ishware keha nahi mane, swaswa matastape paramatira kandane, tate chaya darshana hoite tatva nahi jani, mahajana ye kahe se satyamani. Sri Krishna Caitanya-vani amritera dar, tinho ye kahaye vastu se tatvasar. People are so unfortunate that they do not accept the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Instead, they want to be supported by so-called Mahajanas, or authorities. Tate chaya darshana hoite tattva nahi jani. We cannot ascertain the real truth simply by following speculators. We have to follow the footsteps of the Mahajans in the disciplic succession. Then our attempt will be successful. Sri Krishna Caitanya-vani amritera dara. Whatever is spoken by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is an incessant flow of nectar. Whoever accepts his words as reality can understand the essence of the absolute truth. No one can understand the absolute truth by following the philosophy of Sankhya or the yoga system of Patanjali, for neither the followers of Sankhya nor the yogis who follow Patanjali accept Lord Vishnu as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nate vidu swartagatim hi Vishnum. The ambition of such people is never fulfilled. Therefore, they are attracted by the external energy. Although mental speculators may be renowned all over the world as great authorities, actually they are not. Such leaders are themselves conservative and not at all liberal. However, if we preach this philosophy, people will consider Vaishnavas very sectarian. Srila Madhavendra Puri was a real Mahajan, but misguided people cannot distinguish the real form from the unreal. But a person who is awakened to Krishna consciousness can understand the real religious path chalked out by the Lord and his pure devotees. Sri Madhavendra Puri was a real Mahajan because he understood the absolute truth properly and throughout his life behaved like a pure devotee. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu approved the method of Sri Madhavendra Puri. Therefore, although from the material viewpoint the Sanudiya Brahmana was on a lower platform, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu considered him situated on the highest platform of spiritual realization. Srimad Bhagavatam 6.3.20 states that there are 12 Mahajans: Brahma, Narada, Shambhu, the 4 Kumaras, Kapila, Manu, Prahlad, Janaka, Bhishma, Bali, Shukadev, and Yamaraj. To select our Mahajans in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, we have to follow in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his representatives. His next representative is Sri Sarup Damodar Goswami, and the next representatives are the 6 Goswamis, Sri Rupa, Sri Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath, Sri Jeev Gopala Bhatta, and Dasa Raghunath. A follower of Vishnu Swamis was Sridhar Swami, the most well-known commentator on Srimad Bhagavatam. He was also a Mahajan. Similarly, Chandidas, Vidyapati, and Jayadev were all Mahajans. One who tries to imitate the Mahajanas just to become an imitative spiritual master is certainly far away from following in the footsteps of the Mahajans. Sometimes people cannot actually understand how a Mahajan follows other Mahajans. In this way, people commit offenses and fall from devotional service. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. What a purport. We should go back over and read this again and again, everyone. This exposes the cheaters from the true devotees. Text 186. Oh, Tarko Pratishta Shutayo Bibina Nasao Rishir Yasyamatang Nabinam Dharmasya Tatvam Nihitam Guhayam Mahajano Yenagata Sapantaha. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, dry arguments are inconclusive. A great personality whose opinion does not differ from others is not considered a great sage. Simply by studying the Vedas, which are variegated, one cannot come to the right path by which religious principles are understood. The solid truth of religious principles is hidden in the heart of an unadulterated, self-realized person. Consequently, as the Shastras confirm, one should accept whatever progressive path the Mahajanas advocate. Purport. This is a verse spoken by Yudhishthira Maharaj in the Mahabharata, Vanaparva, 313, 117. Text 187. After this discussion, the Brahmana served lunch to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then all the people residing in Mathura came to see the Lord. Text 188. People came by the hundreds of thousands, and no one could count them. Therefore Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came out of the house to give audience to the people. 189. When the people assembled, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu raised his arms and said very loudly, Haribol. The people responded to the Lord and became ecstatic. As if mad, they began to dance and to vibrate the transcendental sound, Hari. Text 190. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bathed in the 24 ghats along the banks of the Yamuna, and the Brahmana showed him all the places of pilgrimage. Purport. The 24 ghats, bathing places, along the Yamuna are 1. Avimukta, 2. Adiruddha, 3. Guya Tirtha, 4. Prayag Tirtha, 5. Kanakala Tirtha, 6. Tinduka, 7. Surya Tirtha, 8. Vataswami, 9. Dhruva Ghat, 10. Rishi Tirtha, 11. Moksha Tirtha, 12. Bodha Tirtha, 13. Gokarna, 14. Krishna Ganga, 15. Vaikunta, 16. Asikunda, 17. Chatuk Samudrika Kupa, 18. Akrura Tirtha, 19. Yagyika Viprastan, Yajika Viprastan. 20. Kubja-kupa. 21. Rangasthala. 22. Manchasthala. 23. Malayuddha Stan. And 24. Dashashwamedha. Text 191. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited all the holy places on the banks of the Yamuna, including Swayambhu, Vishwamgat, Dirga, Vishnu, Bhuteshwar, Mahavidya, and Gokarna. Text 192. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to see the various forests of Vrindavan, he took the Brahmana with him. Text 193. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited the different forests, including Madhuvan, Talavan, Kamudavan, and Bahulavan. Wherever he went, he took his bath with great ecstatic love. Purport. The word vana means forest. Vrindavan is the name given to the forest where Srimati Vrindadevi, Tulsi Devi, grows profusely. Actually, it is not a forest as we ordinarily consider a forest, because it is very thick with green vegetation. There are 12 such vanas in Vrindavan. Some are located on the western side of the Yamuna, and others are on the eastern side. The forests situated on the eastern side are Bhadravan, Bilvavan, Lauhavan, Bandiravan, and Mahavan. On the western side are Madhuvan, Talavan, Mahudavan, Bahulavan, Kamyavan, Kadiravan, and Vrindavan. These are the 12 forests of the Vrindavan area. Text 194. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed through Vrindavan, herds of grazing cows saw him pass, and immediately surrounding him began to moo very loudly. Text 195. Seeing the herds approach him, the Lord was stunned with ecstatic love. The cows then began to lick his body out of great affection. Text 196. Becoming pacified, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to caress the cows, and the cows, being unable to give up his company, went with him. Text 197. It was only with great difficulty that the cowherd men were able to keep the cows back. Then when the Lord chanted, all the deer heard his sweet voice and approached him. 198. When the does and bucks came and saw the Lord's face, they began to lick his body. Not being at all afraid of him, they accompanied him along the path. Text 199. Bumblebees and birds like the parrot and cuckoo all began to sing loudly on the 5th note. And the peacocks began to dance in front of the Lord. Upon seeing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the trees and creepers of Vrindavan became jubilant. Their twigs stood up, and they began to shed tears of ecstasy in the form of honey. Text 201. The tree branches and creepers, overloaded with fruits and flowers, fell down at the lotus feet of the Lord and greeted him with various presentations as if they were friends. 202. Thus, all the moving and non-moving living entities of Vrindavan became very jubilant to see the Lord. It was as if friends were made happy by seeing another friend. Text 203. Seeing their affection, the Lord was moved by ecstatic love. He began to sport with them, exactly as a friend sports with his friends. Thus he voluntarily came under the control of his friends. Text 204. Voluntarily became under the control of all the animals of Vrindavan. 204. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to embrace each and every tree and creeper, and they began to offer their fruits and flowers as if in meditation. Text 205. The Lord's body was restless, and tears, trembling, and jubilation were manifest. He said very loudly, "Chant Krishna, chant Krishna." Text 206. All moving and non-moving creatures then began to vibrate the transcendental sound of Hare Krishna, as if they were echoing the deep sound of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. 207. The Lord then clasped the necks of the deer and began to cry. There was jubilation manifest in the bodies of the deer, and tears were in their eyes. 208. When a male and female parrot appeared on the branches of a tree, the Lord saw them and wanted to hear them speak. Text 209. Both parrots flew onto the hand of the Lord and began to chant the transcendental qualities of Krishna, and the Lord listened to them. Text 210. The male parrots sang, "The glorification of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is beneficial to everyone in the universe. His beauty is victorious over the gopis of Vrndävana, and it subdues their patience. His pastimes astound the goddess of fortune, and his bodily strength turns Govardhan Hill into a small toy, like a ball. His spotless qualities are unlimited, and his behavior satisfies everyone. Lord Krishna is attractive to everyone. Oh, may our Lord maintain the whole universe." Purport. This verse is found in the Vrndävana 13:29. Text 211. After hearing this description of Lord Krishna from the male parrot, the female parrot began to recite a description of Srimati Radharani. Text 12. The female parrot said Srimati Radharani's affection, her exquisite beauty and good behavior, her artistic dancing and chanting, and her poetic compositions are all so attractive that they attract the mind of Krishna, who attracts the mind of everyone in the universe. Purport. This verse is also found in the Madhya-lila 13:30. Text 213. Thereafter the male parrot said, "Krishna is the enchanter of the mind of Cupid." He then began to recite another verse. The male parrot then said, "My dear Shari," female parrot, "Sri Krishna carries a flute and enchants the hearts of all women throughout the universe. He is specifically the enjoyer of the beautiful gopis, and he is the enchanter of Cupid also. Let him be glorified." Purport. This verse is also found in the Madhya-lila 13:31. Then the female parrot began to speak jokingly to the male parrot, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was struck with wonderful ecstatic love to hear her speak. 216. The female parrot said, "When Lord Krishna is with Radharani, he is the enchanter of Cupid. Otherwise, when he is alone, he himself is enchanted by erotic feelings, even though he enchants the whole universe." Purport. This is another verse from the Madhya-lila 13:32. Text 217. Both parrots then flew onto a tree branch, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to watch the dancing of the peacocks with curiosity. And I will stop our reading tonight. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, everyone, for being patient with me. Just when it starts to get very ecstatic, I have to stop. But anyway, we're working through this ecstatic description of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's traveling through Vrindavan and the effect that he had on all of the different residents of Vrindavan and the effect that they had on him. This is the wonder of the spiritual world. It's the wonder of spiritual life. Our duty is to hear these things and to become mesmerized, fascinated, and attracted. Then all of our material difficulties will fade to the background. And we will be able to be happy in this material world. Hare Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. So, any comments, reflections?
First comment is from Krishna Premavati Devidasi.
Krishna Premavati Devidasi, she's always got something to say and it's always wonderful.
She says, Hare Krishna, dearest Maharaj, you are steady like a rock in your service. Please bless that I can develop a little steadiness, as I am extremely restless.
Hare Krishna, may your words come true.
And also, happy month.
Well, you're doing the right thing, and you're becoming steady, I can see, because you're there every day to listen and hear, and you're getting attached. And so your problems are finished. It's just a matter of time. Hare Krishna.
She says, happy month of Damodar, Kartik Mas.
Happy Kartik to everyone. I can't think of anything more appropriate to do than to hear the Caitanya-caritämrta, especially the Lord's traveling through Vrindavan during Kartik. Hare Krishna.
Santarupa Devidasi says, Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Santarupa.
From Brian Phillips, he says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Okay, Hare Krishna, thank you so much. Steady Teddy.
Amrita Vilasini Devidasi says, Hare Krishna from
Hare
Taipei.
Krishna from Taipei. Haribo, Amrita Vilasini.
Dear Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai, all glories to Prabhupada.
This is from Dubai, Attila Marcelian.
Otai?
No, Dubai.
Dobai Attila. Oh, this is my old friend Attila from Budapest.
Says Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I have a letter and I will respond. I'm a little slow in responding because of my recovery from my major surgery. But I have the letter and I thank you for it and I remember you fondly and I will respond to the letter soon. Thank you.
Gopakanya Devidasi says, Jai Maharaj, Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and your transcendental daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books.
Thank you very much for being there, empowering me.
Which is the best medicine of this pandemic.
Hare Krishna, that is true. Best medicine for this pandemic. And the best protection from the influence of the material world, period.
Another question from Krishna Premavati.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Premavati.
She says, how are we to understand the concept of high-class and low-class brahmanas? Are they less learned or less strict in their sadhana, or are there other considerations?
Well, it's a very complex subject because, the Indian culture, the Vedic culture, has been distorted over the eons, and therefore there are remnants of the culture, and therefore people have taken positions of brahmanas in the structure of society without having the qualities of brahmanas. So to actually understand the intricate details of that is beyond the scope of my discussion tonight. But there is a part of it in what we read just I think last night, when it was describing what the Sanodiya Brahmana is. So if you go back and read that again carefully, you'll understand a part of how complicated the situation is. The situation of being a high-class Brahmana has nothing to do with a social status or with the ability to follow a rule strictly or a regulation strictly. The Smarta Brahmanas, they form one category of Brahmanas who traditionally are very, very strict with the rules and regulations of Brahminical behavior. But everything that they do is, evaluated by how you do it, the externals. And in principle, their philosophy, even if they don't say it explicitly, but it is that the rule is the master. If you break the rule, you're finished. You can't have a devotional life or a spiritual life. But higher class Brahmanas, they have achieved higher states of consciousness. And when one is in a higher state of consciousness, then the traditional rules and regulations, or the external rules and regulations, are sometimes relaxed due to one's feelings of ecstatic love or affection for Krishna. So this is a very, very deep topic. I can hardly touch it properly, do justice to it. But just suffice it to say that the less one's attachment is to Krishna, the lower class of Brahmana he is to consider to be. But even if he's in that category in the human society, if he's connected with a devotee who is in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, going back to Madhya-lila Puri, then they're considered topmost Brahmanas. When Prabhupada went back to India, he was criticized severely for making Westerners Brahmanas and sannyasis. And he was criticized for ruining the Vedic culture. Because according to their rule and regulation, if the people on the other side of the ocean are mlechas and yavanas, and therefore if you associate with them, you become contaminated. Therefore, they've lost the essence of spiritual life, which is compassion, to give mercy, doya, mora. So the mercy of Lord Chaitanya flows down to the most fallen. He doesn't take into consideration who is higher and who is lower, who is qualified and who is not. His mission is to give love for Krishna to anyone who will accept it. That doesn't mean that everyone will accept it. Doesn't mean that very many will accept it. But anyone who does accept it can be elevated to the topmost platform of Brahmanism or Vaishnavism. Anyway, that's just a little bit. There's much more to it, but I don't have time or the capacity to sit in the chair any longer to be able to answer that very lovely question That was a very wonderful question. Thank you for that question. It's very important to understand. Hare Krishna.
Rata Manjari said, Jai Guru Maharaj, upliftment time.
Hare Krishna.
Solani Sachi Sundari said, Hare Krishna Maharaj, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to your divine service, all glories to the divine soul listening to the nectar of CC.
Yes, that is the essence. That's a very nice statement you made, a very nice realization. That was Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's conclusion at the end of the Madhya-lila. He wanted to worship the devotees who were listening. Actually mentions it many times, but especially in the end. But thank you for that. That's exactly how I feel. Anyone who enjoys hearing about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a devotee. Hare Krishna. It should be worshipped.
There were a couple more comments from Krishna Premavati. She says, what a long purport to verse 185 about Mahajans and pseudo-Mahajans.
Yes. And there the essence of all the answers to those questions that was been asked are in that purport, so we should study it very carefully, again and again.
We have to follow the footsteps of the Mahajans in the disciplic succession, then our attempt will be successful.
Yes.
Quote.
Yes.
Noel Craver says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble
Hare
obeisances.
Krishna, Noel.
Prashila Singh says, Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
From Dubai, he says, how actual this is for me. Keshava Bharti Maharaj ki jai, Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna, Tila.
And then a comment from Noah.
From?
Noah Craver.
Noel.
Noah Craver. He says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. My goal in this life, as mentioned in this reading today, is to humbly try to not be carried away by the waves of Maya. How lucky we are to get to peer in these windows of transcendental pastimes that can support our behavior as a striving devotee for liberation.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Very nice realization. Thank you, Noel.
And Krishna Premavati Devidasi asks, what is the fifth note mentioned in text 199?
It's a particularly attractive musical note that harmonizes with all the other notes. Hare Krishna.
From Vilasini Devidasi. She says, Dear Maharaj, please accept my most humble obeisances. I'm so happy to see you back doing the readings. I work every weekend and I make sure to take my lunch break at the time you do the readings. Listening to CC from your lotus mouth helps me a lot in my spiritual and my service here in the hospital. Thank you, Maharaj.
Whoa, I just got out of a hospital and I know how important your service is and I know how you are a hero. Hare Krishna, thank you very much for the service you're doing for others.
She also has a question.
Hmm.
She says, you mentioned in one of the purports, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that dry arguments are inconclusive. Could you explain or elaborate about it? Hare Krishna.
Well, the essence is that a Muni is only considered a Muni if he can come up with an idea that no one else has had. And therefore, those who are attached to becoming Munis or erudite scholars have the habit of arguing with one another and to try to establish who's the better Muni. So Tarko Pratishta Shruteyo Bibina. You can't the heart is not satisfied by such arguments. That's in the very verse that is being analyzed. Mahajano Yenikata Sapanta. So the devotees are not really interested in arguing for the sake of argument, to keep themselves in some position relative to other persons in human society. The devotees are interested in glorifying Krishna and in serving Krishna. They're not interested in their own pleasure. So the Tarka Pratishta, they argue for their own satisfaction. They still have, it's sense gratification, actually, different varieties of sense gratification. That's why that purport was so interesting, because it described all the different varieties of sense gratification that are worshipped in the material world as exalted, when in fact all there are is decorations on a dead body. Hare Krishna.
There are quite a few more, but I'll go to one from Rati Manjari because she's
Go ahead. I can't sit any longer. I'm already over the top.
She says, Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. If there is not enough time for this question, please transfer it to the next day, but I would appreciate it being answered by you. As I understand it, in our line, Srila Madhavendra Puri was the first person who exhibited ecstatic love and separation, and since him, it has been imbued in our line. Would you please comment on why we deserve this good fortune? Where did this emotion of Srila Madhavendra Puri come from? Why did we, quote-unquote, deserve to be exposed to this treasure, which, in my limited understanding, changed and enriched the thousands of years of the long tradition of Vaishnavism?
You don't deserve it. We don't deserve it. Therefore, this is called causeless mercy. When Lord Chaitanya appears, he sends his superiors before him. And Madhavendra Puri is one of those persons. Ishwar Puri is another. Dvaitacharya is another. Jagannath Mishra and Sachim another. These are his superiors in age and social situation. So Madhavendra Puri was sent by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to manifest pure love of God in the conjugal ras. And before him, nobody actually manifested this, because Lord Chaitanya came to give this devotional service in pure love of God, in the mood of the Brajbasis, not just the conjugal mood, but the Brajbasis, but especially the conjugal mood among the Brajbasis, because they are all servants of Radha and Krishna, the Brajbasis. They're all serving Radha and Krishna in one way or another. So we don't deserve it, but Lord Chaitanya has decided to come and give it to us anyway. But what makes us really unfortunate is if we don't accept it. Lord Chaitanya's mercy flows down to the most fallen, and therefore it is up to us. All we have to do is accept it. Prabhupada used to make a joke. Say someone comes to you to give you, $5,000, and your hand is full of pennies. And they say, I'd like to give you this. And you say, I can't take this, my hands are full. You see? So, Lord Chaitanya was so powerful that anyone who saw him would immediately exhibit their original Krishna consciousness. Especially in Vrndävana, if you notice, the wild animals chanted and danced with Lord Chaitanya, and they followed him, but not like the cows and deer and peacocks and other creatures in the Vrindavan. They're spontaneously attracted to him. So there's no other answer than that. It's the compassion of Lord Chaitanya and Radharani, of Krishna and Radharani together, that is allowing us to be able to even taste anything. And if we really sincerely follow from the core of our hearts and give up our materialistic tendencies, then we will be able to taste full-blown Krishna Prema in this life. But the essential prerequisite for it is dainya. This is described by Sanatana Goswami in the Vrndävana. Dainya means utter humility. One must become a humble soul. That is where this Trinadapi Sunichinata Rodapi Sahishtana verse comes in. It's why Krishna said that knowledge begins with humility. Without humility, it's all just a show. It's all just for maintaining our stature, maintaining our, social position, or maintaining control over others, or whatever. And because of the way this love is being promoted and propagated, anyone who has heard from a person who has heard from a person who has heard from Lord Chaitanya gets it. But whether they can accept it or not, that's another thing. But anyone who hears a person chant, who's heard from a person who's chanted, who's heard from a person who's chanted from Lord Chaitanya, in that line, direct, mouth to ear, mouth to ear, mouth to ear, will get love of God. It's just a matter of time. And that's all I had to say, because I can't sit in the chair another second. Sri Caitanya-caritämrta ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Prem Anandi Hari Hari Bo. See you tomorrow night, same time, same place, same subject. Hare Krishna. Hari Bo. Thank you very much.